Okay, people, today I'm going to talk about Korea and touch on some other subjects like police brutality and the deep state. So first, let's start off with this whole Korea debacle, which is, to me, a phony false flag type situation, if I ever saw one. First of all, let's use common sense and reason here with what's going on in North Korea and Kim Jong-un. Have you ever seen some of these pictures that the media pops out here about Kim Jong-un? The pictures of him, there's various pictures, him sitting in a submarine with this big smile on his face and two or three guys in back of him, and he's sitting in a submarine popped out of nowhere, or he's sitting at a desk, or he's sitting before a bunch of people. He's got a press suit on. The people that are laughing and smiling look like they just stepped out of Comedy Central. And it's made to look like this stuff is real, okay? I don't think any of it's real. If you look at the original pictures of when ISIS came into being, same thing happened. Looks like a Hollywood production. You got these people standing around ISIS in pressed suits, pressed clothes, designer jeans, brand new headbands, immaculate weapons. This doesn't look like any kind of fucking terrorist to me. It looks like a Photoshop thing, just like this whole bit with Korea and Kim Jong-un looks Photoshop. It's not real. It's like they're creating a boogeyman, okay, to go after. Let's think about this a minute. Are you going to tell me that supposedly the United States of America and NATO and all that are so weak, okay, and so far behind technologically, okay, that they couldn't track a World War II era missile that can't hardly get off the ground? Yeah, it can be shot over Japan and blah, 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 but are you going to tell me with the resources, okay, and the technology that the United States supposedly, quote unquote, has in regards to shooting down or causing a deterrent or stopping some incoming missile? Are you going to tell me that we should be worried about North Korea, that they're a big threat to mankind, a big threat to humanity, because some little guy like Kim Jong-un is spouting off about how he's going to do this and how he's going to do that? There's just too much here that doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense at all. He's not a threat. If you ask me, this could be some kind of thing. And this isn't far-fetched where somehow the CIA or the deep state came into some kind of agreement with him to mouth off and say all these things just so they could go in and rescue the world community from this little dictator that really doesn't have that much power. There's millions and millions of troops, of course, in North Korea. And are they the perfect people on the face of the earth? Hell no. But to sit around and blow this thing up out of proportion to where there's supposedly some kind of threat to the world, hello? Again, their technology in North Korea, as far as anybody knows, that has a thinking mind, is not that far advanced. Anything that they create or try to shoot off or anything that they try to do could be immediately blocked, okay, and their missiles could be shot down. And so what's the big threat here? What's the big threat? Well, I don't see a big threat here. Now, when I talk about Trump, sometimes I say some things about him in a good light, but I also always say that I don't give anybody a pass about anything. And so when he goes to the UN and starts mouthing off about how he's going to destroy North Korea, that to me is just a warmongering attitude, a destabilizing attitude, a let's say diplomatic attitude towards a country that really is no threat at all. So what's the purpose behind this? Is the purpose behind this to create some kind of event or some kind of situation where America has to beat its chest again and look like the big heroes that are coming in and saving everybody? Well, we know that's not true. They don't save people, they destroy people, they take over countries, they replace these people in the countries, these foreign leaders, like Gaddafi and Saddam Hussein and all this stuff, on completely fabricated pretexts, like weapons of mass destruction and that whole scenario. So no, I don't think that this North Korean thing is anything that is a real threat to mankind. And so I wonder what this is. Is this a false flag to complete some kind of agenda to make America look good for all the bullshit that they've done in the past? And it amazes me that Trump would go along with this, since he ran on the platform of not interfering in the sovereign rights of other nations. Something wrong with this picture. Now, is it because he's under some kind of pressure from the deep state? Is it that they have something on his family, or is it that they're threatening his family? You never know. You never know with this kind of thing. It's entirely possible. So I'm just putting out the thought out there that I think this whole North Korea thing is a charade. It's orchestrated. How it's orchestrated, you never know, because the people in the CIA and the deep state are really, really good at this kind of thing, at false flag events, making the other guy look bad and blaming things on the other guy to divert attention from themselves. And while we're on the subject of war here, while we're on this subject, notice the latest thing in Syria, where, Russia is in there actually mopping up and exterminating all these ISIS terrorists, okay, that in fact were created by Hillary and Obama to complete their agenda of wanting to fight terrorism, which is phony, and going in and creating the terrorists so that they can go into other countries and confiscate their resources or replace their leaders with some kind of puppet dictatorship to rule the people and supposedly, quote unquote, institute democracy in that country, which is just a laugh. We don't even have democracy here in the United States anymore. That's been entirely eroded. So in this latest incident, as Russia is mopping up the operations, and it's right down to the last little bit where they've just almost exterminated ISIS completely, got them cornered in this little pocket in Syria. I think it's called Idlib province. And what happens as they're in there, they put their military police in there as they gain ground and wipe out some of these ISIS people. Russia puts in their military police to make sure these people don't infiltrate back in. So there's an exclusion zone there that they've established. I guess the USA and Russia came to some kind of agreement where there's an exclusion zone. But these military police that Russia put in there that are protecting the people and making sure that terrorists don't come back in, get attacked, okay, by a group called Al-Nusra and other groups that are supposedly the USA wants to make them out to be good guys, okay, like they're some kind of freedom fighter against the horrible, bad Bashar al-Assad, the leader or the elected leader of Syria. So what happens here? They support these terrorist groups that Russia's wiping out, and they try to do a pincer movement where they move in and cause harm to these peacekeeping Russian military police force and try to wipe them out. And so Russia picked up on it right away, moved in, and eliminated all the terrorists, blew them to smithereens, and probably some CIA guys along with it, because they're not stupid, okay? And they know that the deep state has this continued agenda of trying to make Assad look like a bad guy and try to make it look like there's some freedom fighters over there that are trying to move in and overthrow Assad because he's a bad guy, when in reality is that these freedom fighters are not freedom fighters at all, but they're CIA developed and orchestrated and constructed terrorists. So we got that situation going on, and that's dicey because Russia just said, hey, you're not going to do this to us, and you're not fooling us for 1 minute. So they just went in there and obliterated all these this pocket of resistance. So you got to scratch your head and say, what is going on here? Why isn't Trump fulfilling his campaign promises about not interfering or in the affairs of foreign nations, okay? And this is something that's been repeated over and over and over again. So we got the Korea thing, okay? We got that thing that is a complete hoax. And we got the this latest Russian thing in Syria, that little incident. So I see it as a dicey situation with Russia, as always, and China, because the America can't keep their big fucking noses out of other people's business, okay? And they keep on and on and on with this shit. Now, if that wasn't bad enough, let me talk about some other things here. Let me talk about police brutality. I'm going to switch gears here just a little. And I want to talk about police brutality in this country that is an ongoing thing, has been an ongoing thing, shooting innocent people, latest incident being this situation, I think it was at Georgia Tech, where some gay pride individual, a male, gets shot in the heart because he's carrying a little bitty knife, okay? And he's obviously distraught and obviously having an emotional breakdown. And these big, big, bad cops that are just so proficient at killing people shoot this kid through the heart. Okay, 21-year-old honor student. They didn't need to do that. And as I've said online in talking to certain people, I am a martial artist, and I have been for quite some time, and I have actually been in training and have trained people of the Spec Ops community, and know what the drill is as far as hand-to-hand combat and what you can do in certain situations. So to me, when there's 3 or 4 cops surrounding some kid with long hair and they don't have enough balls, okay, or enough training to go in there and take that knife away from him, which would be fairly easy to do. I've trained people to do this many, many times. How to take a knife away from somebody, how to move in quickly and disarm people, even people with a gun, if you're close enough. But no, these big bad cops have to sit there and pull a gun on a guy and shoot him through the heart. Because they're cowards, basically, and because they don't give a fuck, and because they always get exonerated. They always get a pass. They act like they're 007 James Bond, a license to kill, all that good shit. It's just pathetic, okay? So another thing I don't like about Trump, and I'm not bashing Trump here because I stick up for him in a lot of ways, okay? But I'm non-political, and I'm in the neutral zone, and I don't take sides, and so I can see errors that are being done, or let's say the ball's being dropped, okay? For what reason, I don't know. Again, there might be pressure on Trump. He is up against it. He has tried to defy the deep state. But maybe you can only do that so long without threats to your family, or who knows what goes on behind the scenes. But when he came out, Trump, and said, keeps lauding the freaking community of police officers, or the community that is supposedly protecting and serving us, and telling everybody how good they are and how wonderful they are, and leaving the part out about the police brutality and the number of deaths, and black people, white people, the Indian, the red man, being beat up on a systematic basis and killed and murdered, and people being pulled over. You don't leave that part out, okay? You don't laud our police community, our peace officers, supposedly peace. Don't think so. And then and that's on one hand, and then on the other hand, he goes so far as to say that he's going to reinstitute a thing that allows the police to have military gear, okay, that isn't being used, surplus military gear, flak jackets and arms and tanks and all this kind of shit. Since when is it necessary for our police officers in this country to be armed like the military, okay? And the Constitution addresses that too, about having a standing military in the United States, that being a threat to the people of the United States. So there's been a line that's been blurred here with the between police officers and the military. They're lumping them all into one category, it seems. And when you see these cases of police brutality, and there was a recent one against a LAKOTA man visiting a sick relative that got beat up and tasered and brutalized, it makes you incensed, okay? It makes you, there's a state of revulsion that comes about within people that are of a clear thinking mind, of a clear thinking nature, that think outside the box, that see the big picture, okay? So these are things that I wanted to talk about today. I want people to think about, because there's a lot of stuff here that is purposefully orchestrated by the deep state through the media, which are basically lying propagandists at this point. There is no truth anymore in the media. It's all slanted towards an agenda. They're all on the payroll of the deep state or the cabal or the elite. Basically what it is, it's the elite controlling parts of our government, like the military or the Pentagon or the CIA or the FBI, in alliance with certain political figures like Hillary and the whole Democratic movement, okay, the whole Democratic farce. There is no democracy anymore. So these people are all in collusion, okay, and it's coming out more and more that there is collusion, okay, and there is infighting, and there is people trying to overthrow Trump, which is a duly elected president, because of a deeper agenda, a deeper situation that most people are too ignorant to see, okay? Although I will say there is a lot of people now that are waking up and starting to see the big picture. Not enough, though, because you still got this division, this false division, okay, that is being created, okay, by, again, like I addressed in my last video, by the deep state, by these goons that want to see this country divided racially, okay? And that's another thing that I talked about in my last video entitled Hate Speech is a Hoax, okay? But they're drumming up this heat and discontent between citizens of this nation with their actions, with these actions of police violence, okay? That fits right into their scenario of these phony groups like Black Lives Matter and Antifa and people like that on the left. Fits right into their agenda, okay, of complete division amongst people, dividing people along racial lines when there really isn't that big a division in this country. But now there's beginning to be. And there's beginning to be a hate-filled aura, okay, that is surrounding this country and the world for that matter, but especially this country. There's a hate-filled aura that is permeating everybody's consciousness. And so when you go on YouTube or any platform like that and you look at the comments, let's say about somebody's having a race, like the race riot in St. Louis lately. I mean, I couldn't believe the comments when I went on there. People calling each other the dirtiest names, racial epitaphs, slander, hate, hateful. Now again, hate isn't like if you look at my last video, people are allowed to say what they want. But that doesn't mean that I, as a thinking person, can't look at some of the comments on YouTube, and even some of those directed towards me when I try to comment and make some kind of sense out of a situation for people. I mean, these trolls come on and they are paid by YouTube or they're paid by CIA. You go look at their little channel that they have, They have their little face on there, and you click on it, and you go to look at their channel, and it's non-existent, basically. There's nothing on it. They don't have any saved videos. It's blank. So you know they're trolls. They just assume a name to come on and cause division and spew out all kinds of vulgar, let's say vulgar language, using all kinds of names and calling people names, morons, and the N-word thing, and the whole deal, okay? And so it's in threatening each other and saying things about death threats, all kinds of things on in this comment section here, okay, that I see. And it didn't used to be this bad, but it's whipping up now because of this thing that they got going with the racial division thing and promoting racial division along the lines of white supremacy and black lives matter and blah bitty blah blah. Goes on and on and on, when it's just all perpetrated by the same source. And you might have a person on this side or a protest on this side and one on that side, but they're both funded by the same people like George Soros. And the original movement is co-opted and made into something, I won't say evil, I'll say dark, okay? So that it creates animosity between peoples. What people forget is that we're all in the same boat together and that they're all being manipulated towards destruction, basically, self-destruction, until it just whips up to such a frenzy that there's no calm, there's no peace, there's no sense of well-being in the world, okay? So you have to look at all these things in a different perspective. You have to look at what's behind the scenes and what the agenda is, what kind of tactics they use. And I've mentioned the Unconventional Warfare Manual, a 248-page manual issued to people like the CIA and the Army and Spec Ops people that tell you how to do the most horrific, immoral situations, things, immoral things, immoral actions, conquer and divide, cause people to flip out, use propaganda, co-opt the media, take over the media, threaten people, and turn one person against the other. And it's just all textbook stuff that, as if you're any kind of strategist at all, and you have two brain cells that you could rub together, or you're your own person, and you can think for yourself and not be swayed by the continual barrage of the lies coming from everywhere, then you can see more clearly what the hell's going on. That's kind of like where I'm coming from. Okay, I see things that are going on. I have a certain experience in certain areas. I consider myself a little bit wise just by the gray hairs in my head and beard. Been around a while, seen things. Am a student of history. I'm a student of warfare, martial arts, strategy, as a hobby, just to stay on top of it and make sure that the wool isn't pulled over my eyes. So I just like to come on here once in a while and talk about these things so that hopefully other people will wake up and other people might start thinking about the situations they're in and That will allow them to have a little bit more power over the situation that they find themselves in. Knowledge is power, okay? It's a good saying, knowledge is power. And another one is, know thy enemy as you know yourself, and you will win 1,000 battles, okay? So you have to know your enemy intimately. You can't just, and you know, anybody that is out there that is not part of the solution is part of the problem, and they're your enemy. If you can see that they're stirring up things that are not for the good of mankind, then you may want to look a little deeper into what these people are all about. And it's a shame that most of the country are just basically zombies, going through the motions of living life and going with whatever rules and regulations are laid upon them. So eventually they will end up giving up their freedom, and we'll have a world like George Orwell's 1984, which is basically kind of where we're getting to right now anyway. So I'm not here to make people fearful, or I'm not here to cause any kind of paranoia. I'm here to inform people so that they can see the big picture and see it for what it is. And then when they see it for what it is, they realize where their stress and anxiety is coming from. Okay, and that's a big thing too, because they want to make people stressful. They want to make people anxious. Because when people are fearful, stressful, and anxious, they're more easily controlled. They give their power away to those who they think can protect them, when in reality it's the very people that are trying to subjugate them. This has happened time and time again in history, and my people are a good indication, okay, of what has happened in the past when the European man came over here and tried to subjugate the indigenous people. These are the same European men and the same deep state people that are in control today. Nothing's changed. It's just gotten more insidious and more conglomerated and more dark, okay? So just some things to think about there, people, to kind of maybe lift your spirits and pull you out of these states of anxiety. If you really realize what's going on behind the scenes, and you really realize that there's dark people that are causing most of the problems, then maybe you can see it from a bigger picture and kind of still be aware what's going on, but kind of detach yourself from any of the negative energy surrounding it. I know that might be hard, but at least if you have some knowledge about it, it could help you. So anyway, I'm going to leave it there today. Just some things that you should think about, I guess. I'll leave it there. Adios.